Hello and welcome to Why Medics Matter, a podcast for doctors by doctors in association with Doctors Training. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Amie Burbridge.
And I'm Dr. Simon Fraser. Amie, we've just had a fantastic opportunity to speak to Mike Blaber on shame in medicine, which is an interesting discussion I've never really thought much of before. What resonated with you?
What didn't resonate with me, I think. I made my usual pages of notes that I do. Do you know what? What I guess one of the really important things for me is that we're talking about it. And it's now a concept that we are open about. Whereas even probably 5-10 years ago, shame in medicine wasn't something that we really talked about. And I think having a whole episode dedicated to talking about shame is a big step forward to where we were. Mike described shame as hiding one's true self. And I think that's what we all do within our careers at some point, and probably in our lives as well, in different circumstances. And I really liked the way that we taught a lot about, we all feel shame at some point in our careers, but we hide it. And actually moving forward, we need to be open, we need to be honest, and we need to share the emotional impact of our roles on us, not just the physical impact. So if somebody says to me, how was your weekend? I'm like, oh my God, I saw so many patients. I'm exhausted. My legs are aching. I've got a headache.
Do you not say fine? Do you not just say, oh, it's fine?
No,
no,
probably, yeah. But no, when we do talk about the effects of work, we often say it's really tiring. We talk about the physical manifestations of work, but we very rarely say, do you know what? I had a really difficult day at work because I had a really difficult consultation. It made me feel really insecure. And we don't really ever say that. We are very good at saying, oh, I needed a drink after work, or I went to the gym, or I've got a headache, but we don't talk about the emotional side.
Yeah, and I think there's two bits to this. There's one which is actually, can we name the emotion? Sometimes we have broad emotions, whether it be we're feeling upbeat, positive, down, anxious, those sort of broad categories. And actually finding words, because we talked about feeling guilt. I think guilty, we feel a bit more comfortable talking about, I feel a bit guilty what happened in the outcome. But then sometimes going and saying, actually, not just am I feeling guilt, but I'm actually feeling shamed. I'm feeling ashamed. So I don't think we are very good at learning, and it goes back to the emotional intelligence bit, which is self-awareness. What is my emotion? What am I feeling? And then what can I do? And I think you're right. It's a culture of medicine at times. And when we do start talking about emotions, what is the often response is, oh, it'll be fine. Keep stiff upper lip. You know what I mean? We've all been through this. So we don't. Yeah. How do we? What can we learn from Mike about some of his work and how he's addressing this?
So one of the things that I really like what he talked about was creating compassionate spaces and compassionate connections and communities, and recognizing that we all go through it and being open and honest. So there's nothing more powerful than somebody more senior than me talking about shame or the emotional impact of their jobs on them. That sort of validates my feelings in a way as well. And one thing that Mike does, he does samosas and support. And he does this, he said, every few weeks with doctors at work. And they talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And what he did say as well is it's really important to talk about the good stuff, not just the ugly stuff or the bad stuff. But when we are talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly, it's not, wow, I made this great diagnosis. It's about how making that great diagnosis made us feel. And when we talk about ugly things, It isn't about the missed STEMI. It's about, I missed it and it made me feel awful. And Mike reflected a lot on the difference of guilt and shame. Guilt is, I did a bad thing. So if I missed a STEMI, which I have done, I did a bad thing. The shame is, I am the bad thing. So you incorporate that feeling into you and you become that mistake.
Instead of a mistake, I'm a bad doctor.
I am a bad doctor. Yeah. And then that permeates through every single thing you do at work. Everything. And I described it like it slowly grows and all of a sudden it's just there. And you don't really still know what that is. It's still really difficult to describe what that emotion is, but it is probably shame.
And what he's reflected on, which how do people react? It can lead to loss of confidence, imposter phenomenon, and then that overcompensation, overwork and perfectionism, anxiety, constant checking, and a constant need of reassurance.
And sometimes I've seen it manifest as changing behaviours, changing personality.
To fit in.
So maybe the individual was outgoing, really chatty, life and soul of the ward round. And then all of a sudden that's gone. It's changed. And trying to fit in or trying to be somebody else. And I think if it's not recognised, it can ultimately lead to potentially depression, anxiety and burnout. And this is why we need to recognise it.
So how do we had an episode with Namita Kumar. He talked about how we create teams and spaces and reflecting that she came in, she'd know the name of the ward club, she'd say hello to him. Every morning when she's got the team, she'd make sure everybody's introduced, she knew where they were and the huddle, and in her words, she had their back. You know what I mean? And we talked about people, Mike talked about the fear. There's a lot of fear that feels like on a tightrope. So we've got to create connections in the teams. I think people say we can't have a team anywhere at a firm. Well, you can't have an old-fashioned firm, but you can make everybody feel part of the team on that day. How do we model vulnerability? Because I think unless we senior doctors model that, then people aren't prepared or feel safe to admit that maybe they are struggling.
I think there are many ways of modelling vulnerability. I probably do too much. I've probably swung the other way and I'm like too vulnerable at work. No, she's crying again. I think we have to be open and honest at work. We have to talk about how we feel. We have to talk about how when we make an error, it makes us feel. And for example, when I've been working recently, I was very busy ward round. And I felt under pressure to practice in a way I didn't want to because I was being asked to work quicker. And I turned around to lots of people and I said, do you know what? I've just had 6 months off work with exhaustion and burnout and anxiety, and I can't do that anymore. This is me now. And I could see the resident doctor going, oh, okay. It's okay. And we had a little bit of a chat about it after. And she was like, it's really important that we hear people say that. But when we are vulnerable at work and when we do put ourselves out there and say these things, sometimes you can get a bit of a backlash. And you have to be aware when we are being vulnerable that some people are still not going to get it. And some people will still say, that is not appropriate. You shouldn't talk like that. You shouldn't cry at work. So there is still out there that mentality that we have to be strong and put on a front at work, I think.
And I think that leads to people not reaching out for help.
Absolutely.
Not protecting themselves.
Yeah.
And actually, if we were to do that earlier on, said, I'm struggling a bit, can I, where we we hold on, we push on until we get to the breaking point.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The last bit just to reflect on was around professional identity. And I talk a lot about this, particularly in our careers sessions, which is we can invest all of our energy in Simon Fraser, the doctor. You know what I mean? I am just a doctor. We become that person. I'm a completely different person in clinical as I am different in teaching as I am in Simon Fraser as an individual, as a runner. And I'm not an Arsenal fan like Mike, but I'm a Newcastle fan. But how do we... What's your thoughts about I think we get stuck. We like the identity of being a doctor, but how do we prevent people from it becoming all-consuming?
Do you know, Simon, if I knew that, I think I'd be rich. I still don't know. Because I haven't nailed it yet.
Okay.
20 years down the line, I still haven't nailed it. I mean, for me, it's authenticity. It's about belonging. It's about creating connection. And I think for me, it's boundaries as well. So having very clear boundaries between work and home. A few episodes ago, we talked about WhatsApp. So I now have deleted all of my work WhatsApp groups on the phone. And it's little things like that can help you separate the doctor from Amy, the mom, the gardener. And I think that's really important.
The bit I would reflect on for me, it's about understanding your values, your core values. But also I have a bit of an exercise which I learned from somebody, which is you reflect in the life. It's a bit of gratitude exercise when you talk about the 4 things you're really grateful for and the 4 things you're trying to build. And the 4 things I'm trying to build is a good family life, to function. So you recognize my words like F. So about function, about I do something that's purposeful. Fitness, Simon's individual being thin, healthy is really important. And a little bit about financial stability. They're my sort of, if I can have a life where I'm happy in who I am, physically fit, I've got a good family and friend life, and I do something that's meaningful. And if I can do that, it doesn't matter which hat I wear.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think we put so much emphasis on getting our identity and our values from the doctor thing. But what we do out of work is just as important. And I think we sometimes lose that.
Thank you. That was a really nice catch up on the episode. If you haven't had a listen to it, he is fantastic.
It's a brilliant episode.
Yeah, brilliant. Whatever. Yeah. I would say one of our best, but then all of our listeners will go. Yeah. All of our guests have been equally as amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you to everybody out there for listening. Please rate, review, and subscribe our podcast. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Goodbye.